What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazik, aka Unique Mazik, and I am coming to you with another episode of Ask Mazik. I think this is the second week since we reintroduced this concept. Used to be Ask FP, now it is Ask Mazik. And I want to make sure that I get the information up on the screen on how you guys are able to get involved in this in the event that you do want to submit a question. So I actually should have put this up already, but I was at and I was coaching my son's basketball team, and so I'm just getting kind of back in right now. So it's been one of those types of situations. So let's see. All right, so there it is on the screen. Hashtag Ask Mazik, and there is my Twitter handle, which is Unique Mazik. That is where you should be sending those questions. It can be anything baseball. I mean, I don't even know why I just said baseball. It could be sports. It could be sports, video games, music, whatever's on your mind, within reason. Obviously, I told y'all don't ask me nothing crazy because I ain't even going to talk about it on the show, period. So don't do nothing silly. Don't do nothing to get yourself mutomboed, aka rejected. So yes, so like I just said, I just came from my son's basketball game coaching. We won the junior varsity game, which is 4th through 6th grade. We won that one quite handily. um and in the second game we lost by 4, had an opportunity to win. But I would love to see what you guys think, like in the comment section. What do you think about, like, when you're playing on that, when you see games on that level, like the junior, what do you want to call it, like junior high school level? Do you think that if your team is up by a certain amount of points, that you should like take players out, or not have like because I totally like emptied my bench right in the first game, so all of my kids played, even the kids who normally wouldn't play. But I had to keep um, some ball handlers on the floor so that I could try to set up shots for the kids that don't get an opportunity to play because their skill level just isn't at that level and isn't high enough. So I would love to see what other people think, like, about that situation. So I know this is supposed to be Ask Mazik, but I'm asking y'all a question. Do you think like that we should like sit kids down, kind of a thing, and say, hey, you're not playing because you're basically, we've already blown this team out. So even though I mean, because I'm gonna be honest with with my team, if I don't play a certain group of kids, it's going to get the ball up and down the floor. And I don't know if you guys have played or seen junior high basketball, but it's pretty, it can be tough to get the ball up and down the floor. So that definitely, because you're not gonna have, most junior high, you're not gonna have a ton of ball handlers. You're just not. So I just really want to know what your guys' thoughts are on that, because I think it's an interesting situation, right? But what else is going on right now before we get into these questions? The NBA 2K League stuff is really getting serious as we come down. We're more than, what are we now? More than halfway through January, about halfway through January. And if you've already got your 50 wins, I would love to see it in the comment section, that let me know if you already got yours, because I want to know how many people have been able to hit the mark already. That's interesting to me. I know we've seen a lot of people tweeting here and there, and they've already got theirs and so on and so forth. But I want to see how many people actually have already made it. And I know there's a lot. I know there's a lot, because you got people who play, man, they play at least 5 games a night, at least. So if you're playing that many games, you got an opportunity, a pretty good opportunity to get all the way there. So see, Victor Lyon says um, you might do a live stream about the 62-63 Celtics. Okay. All right. That might be cool. ICJ says, I don't know why some kids try to get their 50 games to qualify for the 2K league. Okay, yeah. It gets serious. It does get serious. ICJ says he has 25 of 50. He's halfway there. You are definitely there, halfway there, sir. So I don't know. I'm not really going for it, so to speak. Like, I'm not gonna lie. When I do play pro am and I get a win, I definitely check and see how many I got. I think I got 6 now. So I'm not really going for it. Aside from playing on my Monday live stream, I'm really not playing pro-am maybe except for one other day of the week besides that Monday. But I can tell you this, and I think my man Timmy T can definitely vouch for me. My skills have improved over the last 2 to 3 weeks, I would say tremendously. I make a good amount of my open looks, and I don't think it has much more to do with the rating, because I haven't really even bumped my 3-point shooting up much. I don't think at all, because that was like one of the first things I jacked up when I first started to upgrade my character. So it's not ratings. I'm just getting a better feel for the timing and the release. And I'm getting a lot more greens too. And this is even before I get hot. So yeah, I think I'm getting better there. I think my biggest thing that I still have to work on is getting to the basket from the wing after like a pump fake. Sometimes I'm not taking the right angles that I need to take. And also, I think I could finish a little bit better around the basket. Now I'm a 2-way stretch 5, so I'm not going to be like a athletic finisher down there. I know I'm never going to finish that way, but I think that's definitely something that I got to work on. So let's see. We're going to jump into these questions real quick. And actually, the questions we're going to jump on now are some of the questions that actually came in late last week, and I didn't get to them for last week's show. So they spilled over here. So the first one is from XGW. He's a longtime follower on Twitter and of Ask Mazik, so I appreciate you there. He says, do you think that WWE games are heading in the right direction with their games after New Japan Pro Wrestling announced a deal with Fire Pro World? Do I think they're headed in the right direction? I do think WWE games are headed in the right direction. The creator wrestler suite is the best creation suite for any game. So that's a really big deal, because I think in order for you to have a really good wrestling game, you got to have a good creation suite. And I think WWE 2K has the best. I think from a gameplay standpoint, I think what they could stand to do is simplify things. I think they're afraid to kind of do that at this stage of development, because everything is usually about making things a little bit more complicated. But I think simplifying stuff might actually be the better way to go. But there's always a hesitancy to do that to it, so to speak, because I think most games, especially a sports game, is wanting to make itself esports eligible, for lack of a better term. And if you simplify the controls, and you have to wonder, will you have a big enough skill gap? Because skill gap is huge if you're talking about doing an esport. And while we haven't seen any major WWE 2K esports or WWE esports events, I wouldn't doubt that the concept has crossed the minds of the powers that be. So I don't know as far as that, but they're definitely moving in the right direction when you're talking about visuals. One place they're not moving in the right direction with is the presentation from an audio standpoint. While the sound effects sound good for the ring, and the different props and that sort of thing, and chants and music and that, the announcing is just dreadful, and it's just bad. It has been really bad for a long time. And I think the problem is they don't want to let go of the TV style authenticity. And what I mean by that is they want to have Michael Cole. They want to have, all of the real announcers in there, right? And most people say, yeah, of course they do. Well, the problem with that is is that the WWE employees, be the performers, the announcers, everybody that's a WWE employee, those guys and girls work so much. We're talking about on the road over 200 nights a week, right? Touring with the WWE. So because of that, there's very little time for that group of people to go into a studio and record line after line. So you see this really basic like commentary system that is from like 15 years ago, because that's all they really have time to do. Because if you want Michael Cole, you got to work around Michael Cole and the WWE schedule. And there just really isn't a lot of time for them to hash out something like what Madden has done, or even what NBA 2K has done. Because if you look at the NBA has an off season. So during the off season, which is when the game is generally created, that's when you get Kevin Harlan and Chris Webber and Steve Smith and Doris Burke and Kenny Smith and Greg Anthony and Ernie Johnson and all these people into the studio to record lines, and they have more time to devote more times, and especially with Madden, because Charles Davis and Brandon Gowden have, like, I know Brandon Gowden, I think he still announces for, I want to say, Georgia Tech. And then I think Charles Davis does just NFL for, I can't remember what, I think it's the NFL Network. But there's, like I said, there's an off season, and they're getting time to do this. The WWE and their guys are not getting time to do it, and I think that's a area that they are moving in the wrong direction. I think the answer for them actually is going to be to turn, and I don't know that they'll ever do this, because it's about business and the visual appeal, or the what have you, but they need to turn to some either very low level WWE employees, like maybe some interns or something, or somebody that they maybe have that they're like, recruiting or grooming for a position as an announcer. They need to grab one of those guys, or two or three of those guys and girls, and have them say, hey, you know what? This is going to be your practice. This is going to be your introduction to the WWE universe. You guys are going to cut your teeth on this with the video game lines, and the young fans, which are really the future of WWE, the WWE universe, which probably makes up the majority of the people who play WWE 2K games. They'll get to know their voice from the video game, and then at some point when they're able to take over, if that happens, for the Michael Coles and the whoever, then they'll already be somewhat familiar. So I think that's the right way to go. Probably won't happen, but I think that's the right way to go. All right, let's move on to the next question. This one actually also comes from XGW, and he says, our WWE games, I think that's where it comes from. Yep, XGW. He says, are WWE games anywhere close to E-League potential, like the NBA 2K League? If so, how would you do it? So this is actually like a segue into what I was just talking about. I actually didn't even remember that this was one of the questions. Are they close to it? I don't think they're close. I don't think they're close at all. They have to figure out a way to do, because here's the thing, like, I mean, you could do it, but in order to make it really, really, really cool, like, I think it's gotta be more than just, like, I think there's a way to do it and it would be awesome, right? But it's gotta be more than just, hey, here's this guy and girl, or here's these two girls, or here's this guy, these two guys, and they're in a match and they're wrestling each other, and there it goes. Whoever wins this, $250,000 pot, and we had a tournament. There's got to be more than that. You got to take advantage of the fact that this is wrestling, right? And professional wrestling means selling personalities and all that. And we know that with esports, one of the biggest things is when you have an actual star, a person whose brand and persona becomes like a big deal. Well, in wrestling, that is like, that's also something that is encouraged. So if you had, and I think there's the groundwork maybe there with the Road to Glory mode in WWE 2K. It's got to be created wrestlers, obviously, and there has to be some sort of cap in regards to like how good you can make your character. Okay. Because you can't have like everybody like jacked up to a 99 overall in every category and just blah. Well, it has to be some sort of cap, and there has to be benefits to making a super heavyweight, benefits to making somebody a high flyer. There has to be a way for it to be even, so to speak, and a person's skill level with their character becomes where the skill gap is created. But if you had it set up where like there were like weekly shows and pay-per-views and all that sort of thing, like essentially using it like in a WWE the universe mode in that sort of setting, and it was like I said, a weekly show, and it was like something that people could watch, and then you allowed the actual people who are controlling the actual competitors, the esports athletes, if you allowed them to like cut their own promos and stuff like that, I mean, I really think it could be something really unique and special. So that's the way I would approach it. um like I said, it may or may probably won't happen. That if it does happen, it probably won't happen that way, but I think that would be a good idea. All right. So my next question comes from someone I was just mentioning, which is Timmy T. Been running with him for the last 2 Mondays on NBA Pro Am, 2K Pro Am. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, Timmy T can ball. I mean, he's really not even really a point guard. His player is not a point guard, but I believe his player is a shooting guard. But the dude has really good point guard instincts. He knocks down open shots. He finishes very well at the basket. He makes smart decisions when he's going, the types of drives and the types of finishes that he chooses to go with. Sees the floor well, plays unselfishly. I really like his game a lot. And so I've been kind of playing with him and scouting him at the same time. And I really do like his game. So his question is, what do you think will be the biggest issue the first year for the NBA 2K League? That's a really good question, man. That is a really, really good question. And it's somewhat hard to answer. And the reason why it's hard to answer is because we don't know everything about the league, right? So I don't know that I can actually answer that question just yet. I'd have to wait until the draft is done. I'd have to wait until we know how the rules are going to work. If there's going to be caps on the avatars, are they going to remove badges? Are they going to restrict badges? Is something going to influence the game that eliminates 5-out offenses? Something. I'd have to know all of that stuff before I could say what would be the biggest problem, because I'm going to tell you right now, if they don't restrict the avatars and restrict the badge usage, especially, I think one of the biggest problems is going to be people trying to run 5-out all day, because the game right now is set up to almost reward that. But we all know that there's going to be a new build that the 2K leaguers are going to be using. So I don't know what that bill is going to be yet. I don't think there are many people who know exactly what it's going to be just yet. So until I know that, I can't really answer that question. So I hate to leave a question just like that unanswered, and because it was a really good question. But what I'll say is this: I'll have to revisit that one, and I may even revisit it in the form of an article once I know all of the information. But I don't know it all as of yet. All right, next question comes from Nightwing. He is also a returning Ask FP / Ask Mazeker. I appreciate you. He says, if you were Chicago Bulls, would you trade Nikola Mirotic to Cleveland, to the Cleveland Cavaliers? What does it say? For their first round pick, for their 2 first round picks for the 2018 draft. Well, Nightwing, I would do that in a heartbeat, but unfortunately, that trade makes no sense at all for Cleveland. And whomever is in charge of the player personnel movement for the Cleveland Cavaliers would get beat in the middle of a street in Cleveland if they were to trade 2 first round picks for Nikola Mirotic. The Cavs might be okay trading their 2nd first round pick, because okay, they got the I believe they have the Brooklyn. They're going to get the Brooklyn pick, which is not going to be quite as good as people thought it was going to be, because Brooklyn has not been as bad as people expected them to be. And then also, Cleveland will have their own pick, which is probably, depending on where their record ends up, it's probably going to be around between the 25-27 range. So if the Bulls could trade Nico Mirotic to Cleveland and get back the 25th overall pick, I think that makes sense for both teams, to a degree, because Cleveland's biggest issue right now is defense, and that's not Mirotic's strong suit. Would he give them some more depth? Yeah, but honestly, is Nico a great deal of a better player than Jeff Green right now? You know, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, you could slide Nico into the starting lineup, and you have Kevin Love out there, Mirotic, LeBron. I think it should be J.R. Smith, even though he hasn't played very well. And then, I guess Isaiah Thomas at the point. That's a team that can really score, but defensively they are really bad. I'm talking about putrid. That's a really bad defensive team. So about that one, like I said, if I'm the Bulls, I'm doing it all day. I don't care if he's going in the division. I don't care at all, because once LeBron leaves Cleveland, it ain't going to be worth nothing anyway. And we already know his time is not going to be that long there. I give it 3 years, 4 years at the most. And that's a good amount of time, but he's also not going to, I shudder that I hesitate to say this. He's not going to be the same guy all that time, but I didn't think he'd be what he is now at 33. But yeah, I probably do that if I'm the Bulls, but if I'm Cleveland, I don't know if that makes a whole bunch of sense, to be totally honest. I'm not sure that does. Okay, so let's go to our next question. And this one comes from Bryant Hedgeman. And let's see, Mr. Hedgeman, let's get you here on the screen, sir. All right, Bryant says, I guess I missed out on the phone, but who do you think? So he was a little late with the question, but I got you, Bryant. He said, who do you think the 2K League managers will interview? Who do you think 2K managers will interview potential players or go based off of what they see off stream and during the qualification portions? Okay, so I guess he's asking, do I think that the NBA 2K League managers will interview potential players? Or, okay, I got it. All right. So he's saying, do I think their selection process is going to be based off of interviews that they have with guys, or is it just going to go off streams and stuff? Well, I think it's going to be a little bit of both, Brian. I think that they'll narrow down who they actually want to interview based off of whatever they've used for scouting. And I think scouting is going to be based a little bit on streaming, but I also think that there is some sort of advanced data that 2K is going to provide to the NBA 2K League. And it's probably going to, and this is just what I think. So I don't have any definite information that says this. This is just my personal opinion. I believe that some part of the trial process in February is going to allow for some sort of advanced statistics to be accumulated. So I don't know what environment that's going to be in, but I think that's where you're going to start to get some data on some of these guys and girls who have qualified with the 50 wins. And I think that data is going to somehow get pushed to the NBA 2K League managers. And I think that based off of that and their awareness of this person's persona and that sort of thing is going to lead to certain teams calling in certain players for interviews. And then they'll go from there. That's my opinion. That's what I think. I don't know that. That's just what I think. That's the way I think it'll go. But I could be wrong. And if I am, I'll be the first one to say, hey, that what I thought at first is not how it's going to go. So, but that's what I kind of think is going to happen. at first. So let's see here. All right. So we got another one here, and this one comes from True Random. I'm gonna have to shrink my screen a little bit because yeah, you guys gonna get my MMA news on the screen as well. All right, so this one, like I said, comes from True Random, and he says, I'm not sure. Oh, I think this is a question. He says that All-Star Team Up is greater than all modes. All-Star Team Up is the only mode that shows real skill with real players. Any mode with more CPU than users turn into a right stick marathon. He says creative players will always be a handicap. All-Star Team Up is the only mode where you can win without making threes. Other modes are filled with bad shot selection threes. Okay, I don't think that was a question. So, okay. I just say okay to that because I don't know what else. He tagged it Ask Mazik, but he didn't ask me. He should tag that Tell Mazik because that's what he did. He just told me something. But all righty. Thank you. All right, this one comes from Breezy the Original. And he says he hopes he doesn't. I don't mind him asking, but I got something in front of the screen. That's why I'm doing this. But how tall do you think the 2K League teams will want their point guards to be? Breezy, I appreciate you chiming in there, but I don't think that they'll have like a preference unless. Did I show you guys that question? Let me show you that question so you don't think I made it up. In here lying, talking about some Breezy said something. Breezy ain't saying nothing. Breezy said, I hope you don't mind me asking, but how tall do you think the 2K League teams will want their point guard to be? I don't think they're going to have a specific like height requirement personally. I think that is going to just be based off of whatever player they like. I could see somebody like discriminating against somebody who came out telling me, I'm gonna have a 5'8" point guard and we're gonna run around, we're gonna get business done. Like maybe that might be an issue. But I think as long as you like probably 6'1", 6'2", and you playing point guard, if you can get it done, you can get it done. But I don't know. I really don't know. A lot of stuff depends on the build and all that, you know. So we still that's not a question I think anybody can answer at this time. So we'll see. All right, the next question comes from IG Wheezy OD. And let's see, what did he say? He says, can you give me a logical explanation for why players miss more 85% good release free throws than 68% slightly early and late? It's a bit backwards. I'll miss half of my 85% free throws, but if we are being technical, shouldn't I miss 15 out of every 100%? 15 out of every 100, 85% releases, or at least in that area. For me, the way I look at it is like this. I say that if my free throw rating, right? Because I think it all depends on it's supposed to depend on your free throw rating, right? So if my free throw rating is a 85, right? I think that I should have my chances of getting the difficulty, like, okay, so there's a sweet spot, right? On when you're releasing your free throws, there's supposed to be a sweet spot up near the top of the meter, right? So the worse the free throw shooter, the harder it is to hit in on that sweet spot to get a green free throw release. So if my free throw shooter is an 85, has an 85 in free throws, and yours has an 80, I should have a 5. My free throw rating should be, or my free throw meter should be set up where I have a 5% better chance it's 5% easier chance, I should say, to get a green release than you do. Also, my area where I can still make a free throw should be a little larger than it is for a person who shoots at an 80. So I understand what you're saying, and I understand why you're saying it, because it definitely seems like sometimes in the game, you're like, why did he miss that? Like, I don't understand why he missed that. But I definitely get that. But that's the way I look at it. You know, and I hope that that probably was kind of confusing, but that's the way I look at it. Um, the free throw thing is definitely difficult though to get to really get a handle on. I do think that, but that's the way that I look at it. It should be, you know, the better your free throw shooting, the easier chance it should be for you to get, you know, for you to be able to get a green release. It should be easier for you to get a green release if you shoot good free throws. So let's see. Let's go back here and look at this chat. You guys have been talking. ICJ, subscribe. I appreciate you. Marco says, was my favorite game of 2017, sports and non-sports if possible, and the most anticipated game of 2018. Marco, that's an Ask Mazik question. We gotta put that joint in the shoot me a tweet so I can talk about that one. Take some time for sure to actually answer that next week, because I gotta give me a chance to look that one up. So you gotta hit me up with a tweet for that one. Let's see. Producerable got his 50 wins on January 5th. Dude, that's 10 wins a night. Jonathan Dennis said he got his on the 5th. That's another one. 10 wins a night. Barack Lesnar said his switch port is terrible. Just so y'all know, there it is. George L says, can you upload a draft class in NBA 2K18 My League Online? Also, I think that question, I'm finna answer that in this one already, George. Let's see. Somebody said rest in peace, JoJo White. Did JoJo White pass? Let me look that up real quick. Did JoJo White pass? He just went to the Hall of Fame last year, right? Yeah, he did. Oh man, that sucks. JoJo White passed. They just put it up 13 minutes ago. Dead at 71 after a battle with cancer. Man, I hate to hear that. It's terrible. Let's see what we got. NXT announcers have time off. That's what we're talking about, the WWE 2K thing. Marco S says, I think MMA would make for a great esport with the right sort of leveling and skill system based on training proficiency with various styles and disciplines. It could all actually be entertaining. I would agree. David says he plays My Career more. What's up, David? All Star says the point guard should be 6'4". He say 6'4" and under is good. Earl Miller says, with the 2K League and force players to learn an official legit NBA offense and playbook versus a whack 5-out offense. That's what we still don't know yet. And let's see. Marco says shoot the question over. And David Friend says Goldberg is going to the Hall of Fame. He absolutely is. You can bet that. So I know that was just recently announced. All right, so let's get back to the questions at hand. IG Weezy OD added in. He said that free throw consistency should be a big deal for this 2K league. I would agree. That is definitely gonna matter for sure. So I agree with you there. All right, here he is, Barack Lesnar has a question. He says, if the NCAA expanded the college football playoffs, how many teams should be in it? If you ask me, I think it should be 16 teams. I know a lot of people don't like that. They think it's too many. I would like to see them get rid of the traditional bowl games, period, and just the top 16 teams. Because I think if you got the top 16 teams, I don't think anybody can make a legitimate argument that they didn't get a shot. Right. I feel like if you, I really feel like you really need to see a situation where one of these teams that's like, I don't know, like, let me think of somebody, like a Central Florida or something like that. I remember, I think back when Blake Bortles was there, they were like almost undefeated or close to it or something to that effect. And I just think that it's insane that those teams can reel off a 11-1 or a 12-0 season and never get a chance to play for a national championship. Just never even get the shot. So I don't care. Maybe they go in as a 12 seed or as a 10 and they play a really tough team and maybe they get blown out. But maybe what if this 1 year it happens where a low seeded college football team pulls a big time upset? Don't say it can't happen. I mean, how many people remember when Appalachian State pulled this big upset over Michigan? Now, obviously, this wasn't one of Michigan's best teams, but Appalachian State was a big underdog, and most people would have thought they would have gotten mopped by the Michigan Wolverines. Did I say Michigan State? I didn't mean Michigan State. I meant the Wolverines. But it happened. And the 1 year, the one time something like that happens, it is going to set the college football world on fire. People are going to be coming out of everywhere talking about this upset. And can they do it again in the next round and so on and so forth. So I think it would be great for college football. I think a lot of the old heads that are a part of the college football playoff and that whole situation, they don't want to let go of the bowl games and all of that garbage, but nobody cares, man. Who sits up and watches the Meineke Car Bowl? I mean, like, really? I mean, we sitting up here watching the check and go, the check and go cellular phone bowl. I mean, it's just all kinds of garbage going on. I mean, it's just bad, man. Just terrible. The Pro Kids Bowl, just anything bowl. We don't need it no more, man. Just make all of those games count. And I think people would love it, And a lot of people are like, well, man, a lot of those schools make a lot of money off of those bowl games, even the ones that are smaller. I would like to see it done away with, period. All right, my next question comes from Dalton Weeks. And Dalton says, how did you become a sports journalist? Well, Dalton, I appreciate the question. I became a sports journalist. I've always loved sports my whole life. Just forever, literally. I don't remember a day that I've ever lived that I did not love sports. So I guess that's where it starts. Secondly, at some point in my life, I realized I could write fairly well. I don't know exactly when that clicked to me, but at some point I did. But oddly enough, I didn't get a job writing until later in my life. I was working, I call them like regular jobs, because this is not a regular job to me. It's something just kind of just really crazy and impractical, it felt to me at one point in my life. And that's what I have this saying that I've been saying for a while, and I actually adopted it because of my own life, right? And I think that it kind of explains why it took me so long to start to become a writer, right? My saying is, choose a career before life assigns you a job. So I tweeted that before, and I've said it on a couple different shows. And what I mean by that is, if you don't, when you're young, right, and you have an opportunity, you don't have kids, you're not married, you don't have all these different obligations. When you're having an opportunity to actually choose what you want to do, that's when you choose your career. You choose, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my working life. This is what I want to do. I enjoy this, right? If you pick a career then and you stay focused and you don't allow things to distract you and throw you off your path, obviously sometimes things happen to beyond our control, or sometimes things happen, we make a mistake or we make a bad decision and something happens. But if you can at all control it, pick what you want to do and be consistent with that and stay focused on it and go after that goal. Because if you don't, and you get into a situation where you start to work jobs or you start to get obligations like children and family and wife and all these different type of things, that now it becomes maybe the thing that you want to do is going to take some years before you can actually make good money doing it, right? Well, if you have a family and you have these obligations, then you're not going to have that time, not 9 times out of 10, or you're not going to have the luxury of taking your time to make good money, because you'll have mouths to feed. You have all these different responsibilities. And then at that point, life will assign you a job so that, I mean, honestly, that's how I ended up doing customer service and sales. I worked at a group home. I've done all kinds of jobs, right? Before I started doing this, and it was because life assigned me a job because I had children, I had a wife, I had all these different responsibilities where I had to do something. So it wasn't until um, 2010 I decided. I was like, you know what? I had just got let go from a job, and I said, you know what, man, I am. It's time for me to try to do something that I actually enjoy. And the thing of it is if it were not for my wife, I would not have been able to do any of it because she allowed me the room to dream, and she allowed me the room to go after something, and she never made me feel like I was less, or like doing this wasn't what she wasn't going to stand for. She wasn't going to allow me to do it. And I always tell people all the time, things were tough for us when I first started writing. I wasn't making a lot of money. And even sometimes before that, I wasn't making a lot of money. And not saying I'm rich or anything now, but I wasn't making even enough to really take care of us the way it needed to be. But she's always treated me like a king, no matter what size castle I put her in. And that is what I needed to be able to chase this thing. So I started writing for Bleacher Report. I sent in my application, and I had to send in a written application to write for them. And it started off where they just gave me a couple assignments, or they just gave me access to write. And so I would do a couple of things, and then somebody said they liked what I was writing. I got contacted by an NBA team, by the NBA team, and they said, "Hey, well, we want you to write about the Bulls." So I'm like, "Oh, great! This is awesome." So I started writing about the Bulls. I did that for maybe about a month. Then they pulled me in for this team called the Breaking News Team, which was very important for my development because it taught me how to write a headline. It taught me how to get traffic. It taught me the basics, the core of writing and formulating an article, how to do it, and all of that whole thing. Now, meantime, I decided at the same time I'm going to go to school and try to get my journalism degree because I didn't have one yet. So it was just a perfect storm. Bleacher Report was the experience that I got early on, and then I was able to kind of wrap around the degree as I was getting this on-job experience. So I was very blessed that way. And just at about a time where I felt like I was getting to a point where I was moving past where I currently was with Bleacher Report, a former editor from Bleacher Report, which was now with Forbes, reached out to me and said, "Hey, I got something I think that would be great for you." And I jumped at the opportunity, and it has been a great blessing for me. Great blessing for me. So that's how I got there. I kind of probably went a long way around to tell you, but that's how I got doing what I'm doing right now. So, and I am very blessed and very appreciative and very thankful for all of the good and the bad that God has allowed me to experience on the way to where I am right now. So let's go to the next question. This one comes from, all righty, where is it coming from? Okay, this one comes from my man Long. He is also a long time supporter here, and I really appreciate you. He says, "Where is the 2K League online application?" A lot of people are asking that. It is not, they've not put it online yet, but when it goes up, it's going to be on the NBA 2K, where NBA 2K League website. I'm understanding. So that's where it will be when it comes up, but it's not there yet. And when it is up, believe you me, I will be talking about it. So if you follow me, you won't miss it because it'll be a big deal when it happens. So just stay tuned. My next question comes from another longtime supporter. I appreciate you, Jared Young. He says he wants my thoughts on Anthony Joshua versus Joseph Parker. About time. That's my thoughts. About time. Let's get this thing cracking. We got some momentum in the heavyweight division in boxing, and I don't want to see anybody in their selective matchmaking ruining it because the heavyweight division has not mattered for a long time, and it's finally about to matter. And Joshua needs to fight Parker, and Wilder needs to fight Ortiz, and thankfully both fights are going to happen. The last thing that needs to happen is if Joshua beats Parker, as a lot of people expect, and if Wilder beats Ortiz, which is what most people expect, then Joshua and Wilder need to fight sometime this year to completely unify the heavyweight division. And one of those guys are going to become, could be both, but at least one of them is going to become a major, even more major star than Anthony Joshua already is. Joshua Parker is a fight that I think it's interesting. Joseph Parker seems to be going around talking as if he's saying that Anthony Joshua has a glass jaw, that he is going to crack that jaw, and that, he doesn't believe that Anthony Joshua is going to be able to handle his pressure, his athleticism. And it's true enough. Joshua Parker probably is going to be the most athletic guy that Joshua has fought. Joseph Parker is going to be the most athletic guy that Anthony Joshua has fought. But I really feel as though Anthony Joshua's length is going to give Joseph Parker a problem. I saw Joseph Parker fight Hughie Fury. Hughie Fury is a long, skilled boxer. He's more skilled and slicker than Anthony Joshua, but he doesn't have anywhere near the power. And I thought that Joseph Parker had a difficult time getting inside of Hughie Fury's reach. I thought he had a hard time with his movement. Now, Joshua's not going to move as much as Hughie Fury, but Joshua packs a big-time punch. Joseph Parker, to me, seems to have hit a ceiling. There was a time I was extremely stoked about him, right? I was like, oh, man, this dude is the guy. He is one of the next guys here. Him and Joshua, when they finally fight, it's going to be a big deal. But I've not been as impressed with Joseph Parker in his last 3 or 4 fights. If I'm being totally honest with you, I thought Hughie Fury beat him. I thought it wasn't an action-packed fight, but I thought that Hughie Fury outboxed him and deserved the win. Didn't happen. So I haven't been that impressed with Joseph Parker like I thought I would be, and I think that Joshua is going to knock him out. But we'll see. We'll see if that's what happens. All right, our next question comes from another longtime supporter, Weston Flores. What's happening? What's happening? He says, do you think the Patriots will repeat as Super Bowl champions, or will a different team have it this year? I think the Patriots probably do win, but I am definitely telling you right now, Jacksonville is scary. That defense is scary. And I know they gave up 42 points to Pittsburgh, but a lot of that came late. And it's not like Pittsburgh doesn't have a dynamic offense. Jacksonville is scary, man. That defense is scary. I know their passing game is rather anemic, but the defense is very scary, man. So I don't know. But aside from them, yes, I don't think the Eagles have enough offense, even though their defense played well. I don't think they have enough offense without Carson Wentz to go all the way. I'm not sure they beat Minnesota, if I'm being totally honest. I'm not sure they beat Minnesota. But Jacksonville, to me, is the team for New England, obviously. I mean, really, that's all we got left. But so if they can beat Jacksonville, I think that you're looking at the Patriots have it. I mean, if I'm going to pick it right now, I would take the Patriots, and I'd say, yeah, the Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl. That would be my pick right now. But we still gotta wait and see what happens. But that would be my pick. All right, let's look at the next question. This one comes from Joe. I don't believe I've seen a question from Joe yet. I appreciate you coming through. Joe says, what does Joe say? Joe says, do you think it'll be a cool idea for the 85 people that get drafted to the NBA 2K League to have them sculpted or something so their players look like them in real life? Yeah, Joe, I've actually been talking about this. I believe, and this is another thing that I haven't heard definitive. It hasn't been confirmed. I've mentioned it to 2K League managers, and I've mentioned it to even people at NBA 2K. But I think that they have to like have the guys and girls, whoever qualifies and whoever gets drafted, they got to have them come down to the 2K headquarters and get scanned, or 2K has to bring the rig to to the team headquarters and scan these guys and girls. It's got to happen, man. I mean, I think that would be really not cool if the first season goes on and these guys and girls are not scanned. That I think it needs to happen. I think it will add something totally to the league, because this is the thing I say. As far as with esports, people can say what they want about 2K and how 2K may or may not be an esport. I've heard some people say that kind of stuff. Dude, if you, out of all of the great esports games out there right now, none of them allows you to has it where the actual esports athletes look like themselves in game. None of them have that. None of them have that element. If 2K can capitalize on the technology that they already have available, that's going to be a really big deal. And I would hate to see 2K squander that opportunity and not have that there. All right, the next question comes from Gabriel Pradia Hunt. He is another long-time supporter. I appreciate you. He says, with the way the Bulls are playing nowadays, do you find yourself using great Bulls teams of the past? Actually, in 2K, no, honestly, because me and my son were just talking about this. The Bulls are actually not a bad 2K team, because they got a lot of they have a lot of athletic players and they got some shooters. So as far as in the 2K team, that's not really that bad of a look. So, and if if you die hard like me, I don't have a problem playing with the Bulls. So no. I mean, I play with the 95-96 Bulls just because I want to go nuts with Mike or something. But no, I don't mind playing with this year's Bulls. The next question comes from Gio. He says, can you upload a draft class in NBA 2K18 My League online? Also, is there something currently wrong with contracts when you play for Xbox? I loaded one up and everybody is getting paid $1.45 million. Honestly, Gio, as far as the draft classes in my league online, I don't believe you can do that. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I don't believe you can do that. But as far as the contracts, I haven't heard about that bug. I haven't heard about that one where everybody's getting paid $1.45 million. I haven't heard about that one. So, yeah, no, I don't know about that one. And I don't play my league on Xbox. I have 2K on Xbox. I just don't play my league on Xbox. So I don't know about that one. So sorry about that. I wish I could answer it more definitively than that. All right, the next question comes from Daytron Hicks. And Daytron says, what are you hoping for in NBA 2K19's creative player? I like the realistic look. I just want to sculpt the faces to my liking. Bruh, you are preaching to the choir. Well, I don't need the realistic faces. That don't do nothing for me. I would much rather have the option to make a creative player look real than I would having you scan a real guy and say you're going to have minimal things that you can do to sculpt this person's face. No, give me a ball of clay is what I want, and let me make it look the way I want to make it look. And if I'm not good at that, then I just won't have good creative players. But you see people out here like T Gore, and I'm not on T Gore's level, but I'm not bad when it comes to creating players. Give me that back. Give me a complete sandbox when it comes to create a player. That's what I want. That's what I love to see. I want to see you be able to have players with goggles. I want to be able to put scars on guys' faces. I want to be able to put a grill on the teeth. Essentially, take WWE 2K's creative player and give it to NBA 2K, and I would be the most happy NBA 2K fan in the world. That's what I need. That's what I would love to see. Okay, so I got two more questions before we're gonna, if anything came in after these, I'm gonna push it to next week. This next one comes from Alex, my guy. He is another one that's back. I appreciate you. He said, "Did you know that they still got Blockbuster up in Alaska?" No, I did not until I watched this video that you sent me earlier today, Alex. That's crazy. But if you watch the video, they kind of explain to you how Blockbuster is surviving in Alaska. He's saying because everything is so spread out, um, they don't have as dependable internet and connectivity. So streaming is not as big in Alaska as it is in the bottom 48 states. Um, so that's one reason. So renting DVDs and stuff like that is still a big major business there. So it makes sense. So it makes you almost feel like, man, if you wanted to start a video store or something like it, or some sort of spinoff and put it in Alaska, you could probably make some good dough, off of that concept. So that was interesting. I appreciate you sending me that. I always like to learn little facts like that and all that. So all right, now this is the last question I got for today. Comes from my main man Deontay Rose. Was good. He says, what are your top 7 30 for 30 documentaries in the franchise so far? Blessings and much success. I appreciate you very much, Deontay. And Deontay, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I could not limit it to 7. So I went in and I looked at them, right? I pulled up the actual website and I said, well, I'm just gonna look because I can't remember them all like off the top of my head, right? So, and this is not in order of like my level of enjoyment, right? So, and I couldn't get it down any further than 8 because I couldn't figure out one to remove from here. So you said top 7, so I'm gonna have to give you top 8. The first one that I'm going to talk about here is Without Bias. This is the Lynn Bias story. And dude, I'm going to tell you, this one was so like, it was this one and there's one other one I'm going to show you. The documentary was done so well and it was so in depth and it was so on point that I'm watching this and it was like I was like reliving this whole tragedy over again. I was 11 years old when Lynn Bias died, right? And I remember how people were talking about how good Lynn Bias was. And, Michael Jordan was only in his like second year with the Bulls. So we would fall in love with Mike and like, oh my God, this dude is amazing. But the people were telling us that Lynn Bias had given Mike the business, right? In college when he played for Maryland, when Maryland would play North Carolina. So we're waiting on this dude like, man, they said this dude got the same goods that Mike got, right? Or similar goods, right? And who knows? Maybe it would have been, we don't know. But we never got an opportunity to find out. And the whole, oh my God, man, it was like a punch in the chest, really. Not as much of a punch in the chest as one of the other ones I'm going to talk about in a second, but this was like, man, and the documentary was done so well. Without Bias is definitely one of my top 8. The next one for me, and like I said, this is not in order of in level of enjoyment, just on this list, period, is No Crossover, the trial of Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson got caught up in a situation. It was a fight in a bowling alley. Guy got hurt real bad. I can't remember if the guy died or not. He was hurt real bad after somebody hit the guy over the head with a chair. They have to look at this video really closely to see. And basically, the case was made that it was Iverson that hit the kid in the head in this bowling alley in Hampton, Virginia. And he went through it was a nasty ordeal for a guy to have to go through, especially at 17 years old. But if you know anything about what happened, John Thompson, the former head coach at Georgetown University, one of the only guys who gave him a chance. And reached out to him and brought him into his program. Everybody knew how great of a prospect he was. He was actually an even better prospect in football. He was an outstanding quarterback and defensive back. But so I thought that one was really cool. It's just because I felt like the documentary helped me see like the helplessness of this 17-year-old caught up in this issue. So I thought that was pretty cool. The documentary was. Next up was the U. Now, there were 2 parts to the U, but the first one to me was the most interesting. I've always been a Miami Hurricanes fan, always have been, right? And this documentary made you feel like, man, this here was like the ultimate bad boy college football program. I mean, they had swagger for days. It was insane. But then there was a lot of stuff they were caught up into, a lot of issues and problems and other types of things. And it was definitely a large racial component. It was fascinating, a fascinating documentary. If you have not seen the U, I would definitely recommend you watching it. My next one is One Night in Vegas. This was really crazy. I'm gonna tell you, the first time I saw or read about this, before I saw it, I was like, I don't know about that one. How you gonna wrap around? I know Tupac's shooting that ultimately ended up leading to his death happened at a boxing match. It was Mike Tyson against Bruce Seldon. I know it happened. I was like, how's he gonna interweave this? But Reggie Rock by the Wood, I'm telling you, man, he Reggie Rock Bythewood, I think is how you say his name. Um, he did a great job, especially flipping this within 30 minutes. I mean, it was good, dude. It was really good, and it told a story of like both men, like in a weird kind of way. And I really dug this one a lot. Next one is Bad Boys. Now, this is really funny, right? Because I am a lifelong Bulls fan, right? And the Detroit Pistons owned us in the late 80s for the most part. Just and Mike and them, we could not get past this team, right? The Bulls couldn't get past them. Finally got past them. And when we got past them, Detroit acted like the Pistons just acted horrible, just horrible sportsmanship, right? So it made you just dislike them even more, right? But over the course of watching this documentary, I actually started to like some of these guys. And that was amazing because of how much, as a Chicago Bulls fan, we just couldn't stand them. You know, it was weird. It was weird how it happened, but I thought the storytelling was so good that that's pretty much what ended up happening. Next, I got No Mas. Now, anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge boxing guy, huge combat sports guy, period. Leonard Duran, I didn't see the first fight live, right? That was the one when Duran beat Leonard. Just was too much. He just proved to be too much for the young man, right? But in the rematch, Sugar Ray Leonard put an monumental whooping on Roberto Duran and famously made him say no mas, which means I give up. I don't want no more. Please stop making the black man with the afro hit me. Somebody stop him. That's pretty much what that comes to. And this documentary was first and foremost, boxing documentaries are awesome. Like when they're done well, because boxing is such an intimate sport, because it's two guys engaging in this combat that is like crazy. And then the psychological thing starts from the beginning of the time that the training camp begins, when the training camp begins, sometimes even before that. So it's just crazy. That's the reason why people like the 24/7s and the Showtime All Access, because it just gets deep into the person, the fighter. And this documentary was like a in retrospect type of a look at it. And I thought it was great. Next is the one that like crushed me the most, right? Benji, which is about Ben Wilson, the great high school basketball prospect from the south side of Chicago. Like this dude, I'm telling you, when this happened, like I was 9 when this happened, right? But it was such a big deal in Chicago, right? I don't care who you were. If you lived in Chicago, especially on the south side, when this happened, it touched you in some kind of way. I don't care. I cannot overstate how big of a deal it was. It was a really big deal. And I remember just you ever have something happen, right? And it don't even happen to you. And you already know the outcome, and you know the outcome and how bad the outcome was, whatever it was. But you find yourself thinking about it, saying, well, wonder if they had just did this, would this have changed it? Or wonder if he would have just did this instead of that, would it not have happened? If this person would have just did this instead of that, would it not have happened? it was like I did that over and over and over again with this situation, with this story, with especially with the documentary. As you watch it back and you start to know and feel the people personally, right? And I got a crazy story for you attached to this, right? I went to a house party, like I want to say a week or so after this documentary aired, right? So we're all at this party and we're all sitting around. Everybody knows each other for the most part. And you may not know one or two people, but for the most part, because it was a work function, right? Well, it wasn't a work function. It was a function with people that I used to work with, right? So we're all there in Chicago, well, not in Chicago, just outside of Chicago. And all of a sudden, this guy walks in the door, and I looked at him. Now, mind you, I had just seen the documentary. I looked at him and I thought that I recognized him, but I didn't know where I knew him from. We've all seen that where you see a person and you like, I know that person. I don't know where I know him from. Well, after a while, somebody I know comes up to me and says, "Hey, man, ain't that the dude that killed Ben Wilson?" And I'm like, "Oh my God." And it clicked to me, and it was the guy. It was the guy from the documentary, and he was at the house party, and it was so crazy. And I immediately felt for the guy. And I know a lot of people are like, "How could you?" But if you saw the documentary, you would kind of understand why. But I immediately felt for the guy because this was something that happened when he was a very young man. He made a mistake. Same way, if you saw the documentary, so he made a mistake. Same way, Ben Wilson made a mistake. A lot of people made a mistake in this situation. He went to jail for a long time. Um, there were there were several victims. Obviously, Ben's the one who lost his life, which is horrible. But there were several victims in this story. And as I saw the guy's demeanor, as he seemed to get uncomfortable, almost realizing that people there kind of knew who he was, he quickly left. And I just felt for the guy because here's a dude who's now, well, I guess he was in his late 40s at this point, who still cannot escape a mistake he made when he was a teenager, you know? And it was just like, wow, but that 6 degrees of separation, so to speak, shows you just how impactful this whole Ben Wilson thing was if you lived on the south side of Chicago, because it was like everybody knew somebody who probably knew Ben Wilson, or everybody knew somebody who then knew somebody who knew Ben. It was like that. So it was because, like, I grew up on Eberhard, right? The street Eberhard. And his family lived on Eberhard, just like 9 blocks down the street. So it was insane, man. It was just totally insane. But this absolutely, out of all the 30 for 30s that I watched, it ripped my heart out to watch it. But then there were people on it that I knew. I was like, oh man, that's so and so. Like people who I knew from like around the neighborhood. I absolutely recommend people to watch it, but it's definitely one of them things that after you see it, you're gonna be talking about it with somebody, if you haven't seen it already. And the last one is You Don't Know Bo. Um, Bo Jackson is like a mythical type of a guy, only he actually did exist, or he actually does exist. Um, he is the greatest athlete I've ever seen. Like just pure raw athlete. He's the greatest raw athlete I've ever seen. I've never seen a guy or a girl with the physical gifts that Bo Jackson had. You know, I never seen it. So to watch that documentary was just like a reminder of all of these awesome, crazy athletic feats that I saw him do. And it even introduced me to a couple that might have slipped past me. It was just literally like watching a documentary of a superhero. But then at the same token, there is this tragic end to the athletic career with the hip injury. And so that just kind of makes it like, oh man. And then you almost go back into that thing where you're like, well, I wonder if he had done this, or if he had stopped doing this, what it would happen, whatever. But yeah, it was a great documentary, and always have been a humongous Bo Jackson fan. So I loved it. So that is all I have for you guys today. I do appreciate always you guys watching, taking the time to go through these questions with me. Like I said, at the bottom of the screen, if you would like to be involved with Ask Mazik and ask me a question, shoot me a question using the hashtag Ask Mazik, which is here at the bottom of the screen, and shoot it to @UniqueMazik. That is my Twitter handle. Also, if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please do that now. Also, in the link or in the description to this channel, there's a link to my all sports channel. So it's all real sports. So it's no video game stuff, which this one is still on the video game channel because we do talk a lot about video games here. But there's a channel where I have where I only discuss real sports, no video game stuff. The link to that channel is in the description. Make sure that you subscribe to that one as well. There's also a link to my Forbes writer profile. So if you want to be up to date with the latest things that I've written, take a click on that link and you can see that as well. Until next week, 7:30 Eastern time, 7:30 Central time, next Tuesday. I'll holler at you guys later. Appreciate you watching. God bless and peace.